Alright, today let's learn about security feature, that is Web Application Firewall. We can find it here if you have used it, or also we can write Web Application Firewall and we can browse it. So let's click on it. So this is how it looks. Next we'll be creating everything from the scratch. Let's click on create Web Application Firewall. We know Web Application Firewall is specially used to prevent activities like cross-site scripting or SQL injection, those kind of things. Let's click on create. We'll check everything from the scratch and do everything just like a simple beginner. So here the basics definition is already there, that is malicious attacks like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, OWASP. So the basic things are already there in the definition as well, which I mentioned. So let's select there are basically two types, regional and global. Will go for the global one, as the name suggests, global WAF, also known as front door. Let's select. Next we have the front door tier, that is there are in a nutshell we can classify into like premium will contain everything, all the features. Classic on the other hand like has some custom rules which is like this one. So we'll select classic for this one because the more feature we select, the more we end up paying as well for utilizing those features. So currently we need classic for this demo. Looks good. Next let's select one resource group. Next we need to give a policy name. Let's give it like Cloud Guru Amit WAF. We can name it anything. Next there is a policy mode, right? So one is prevention and one is detection. So as the name suggests, prevention will prevent, detection will only detect. Though we can switch or toggle between this policy mode anytime even after the creation of this WAF policy, which I'll be showing after this is done as well. So for now this let's go with the prevention one, right? Prevention means to prevent. It's kind of like just think like a person is having a fever, it will give some medicines to like prevent. Let's say the body temperature is 102 Fahrenheit, it will prevent. Detection is like a just the thermometer thing, it will detect 102 Fahrenheit, but it won't prevent anything. Prevention is kind of like medicines to lower the body temperature or maintain the body temperature. That's that kind of thing, right? To prevent those things. So I hope you got the concept of these two, policy mode. Now let's go back to next, manage rules, where we'll be seeing tons of options. So here we can see there are tons of rules already created, right? So we can enable as much as we can, or like even we can like select the rule ID, then select disable. If you select disable, it's all are red. Then we can search anything like, let's say cross-site scripting or something, XSS or something. So in XSS there are again tons of options and rules created. So I'll randomly select some things for cross-site scripting. Let's say I've selected this. Then for SQL injection, let's select some of these to test the feature. Like let's say maybe this one. Randomly I'm selecting something. Make sure to click on enable, right? If we don't enable, it will just vanish, just like the previous cross-site scripting one. If I select enable, see it's green. Again for XSS cross-site scripting, let's do the same for some of the randomly selected rules. Just for showing this demo, I've enabled a few of them to demonstrate this feature, so you can check these ready-made things which are already there. Next let's go to the policy settings. Here block response body, like it will let's write block SQL injection and cross-site scripting XSS. This looks good. We can also additionally mention redirect URL if any, that is not required. Next comes the important feature like custom rules, where we can define our some additional rules. If I click on add custom rule here, next we need to write like cloud WAF custom, give one name. Here we have kind of like if then else condition is geolocation, this kind of thing. There are also IP address sizing, we can block as per the requirement. Next we have let's select a remote address. Here is the operation, we can block by the country as well. Let's give it like if it is India, it will block. Why it will block? Because if we check here, operation is then country India, then deny traffic. We can also do the reverse. If it is India, we can allow traffic as well. There are other options as well, but generally we know like WAF is generally used for denying traffic. Yeah, we use it. So let's go ahead with deny one. Let's click on add. Okay, we need to assign priority. Let's assign one priority as like let's say 1. Let's add it. Next is the association and all. These are actually not required much. We can add association, then tags. We can key value pairs, like we can mention dev environment or something, those kind of thing we can mention, but we are good for now. We'll click on review and create. It will going back to the validation as passed. This looks good. Now let's click on create. All right, our deployment is in progress. It takes a few seconds to deploy. Okay, our deployment is succeeded. We got the message as well. So here let's go to the resource as well. So if I open our resource as mentioned, I can anytime switch between prevention mode and detection mode. If you remember, I have selected prevention mode. Now we can also switch the mode. See, it instantly switched to different mode, that is detection. Currently it's detection mode. We can also switch to prevention mode anytime. Also we can disable this WAF and all anytime as per our requirement. So I hope you found this tutorial for WAF useful. Thank you so much for watching this video. Alright, let's look at this question. We'll first look at option A. A says Azure migrate. Azure migrate cannot migrate SQL Server database. Incorrect choice. Let's now move to option C. C says SQL Server Migration Assistant. SQL Server Migration Assistant is a tool for migrating databases from other database management systems such as MySQL or Oracle to SQL Server. It's not intended for migrating SQL Server to Azure SQL Managed Instance. Incorrect choice. Let's now move to option D. D says Data Migration Assistant. Data Migration Assistant won't work for offline migration as required by the question. We'll reject this. We'll lock option B, Azure Database Migration Service DMS, as the correct answer. Okay, let's look at option B first. B says Azure Arc. Azure Arc cannot track Azure Resource Manager resource deployment, therefore incorrect choice. Let's move to option C. C says Azure Monitor Matrix. Azure Monitor Matrix provides performance data for Azure resources but do not address resource deployment history, therefore incorrect choice. Let's move to option D. D says Azure Monitor Action Groups. Action groups are used for defining a list of actions to take based on alerts or events. Action groups are not related to tracking resource deployment. We'll reject this option. We'll lock option A, Azure Log Analytics, as the correct answer. Let's bring the heat to the snow. We got to read the requirements, and as per the requirement we got to choose the correct answer. Let's look at option A first. A says Azure SQL Database Elastic Pool with active geo-replication. Azure SQL Database is not the best fit for hosting 25 independent tables with varying sizes and usage pattern, as it's not the cost-effective solution. Let's reject option A. We'll move to option B. B says tables in an Azure storage account with geo-redundant storage (GRS). Azure storage tables support REST connection, can host multiple tables, and automatically replicate data to a second Azure region using GRS. So this can be the potential answer. We'll park this. Let's move to option C. C says tables in an Azure storage account with read access geo-redundant storage (RAGRS). Read access geo-redundant storage cannot meet the requirement for automatic data replication to the secondary Azure region. Hence incorrect choice. Let's move to option D. D says Azure SQL Database with active geo-replication. Just like option A, Azure SQL databases cannot be optimized for hosting tables with varying sizes and usage patterns due to cost restriction. We'll reject this. We'll lock option B as the correct answer. Alright, we'll look at option B, C and D together. Azure SQL Database, Azure SQL Database Hyperscale and Azure Databases for PostgreSQL cannot meet the multi-master rights requirement as per the question here. Therefore, these are incorrect choice. We are left out with option A, that is Azure Cosmos DB SQL API, and it is the correct answer. Alright, let's look at this question. We'll first look at option A. It says set up a read replica. Read replica cannot minimize downtime during failover events. Incorrect choice. Let's move to option B. B says use Azure Premium File Share to store the database files. This option is not relevant for MySQL databases and doesn't provide business continuity features as required by the question. Therefore, again, incorrect choice. Let's move to option C. C says implement geo-redundant backups. Geo-redundant backups provides regional resiliency by replicating the server backup data files in the primary region, paired region, that is. This can be the potential answer. We'll park this. Let's move to option D. D says configure native MySQL replication. MySQL replication cannot address the problem of geo redundancy or failover to a paired region. We'll eliminate this option as well. We are left out with option C, implement geo redundant backups, and it is the correct answer. So please don't go away. Let's meet in next part of the series.